How's everybody doing? It is Healing Tuesday, and I'm a bit excited. It doesn't support screen sharing. I was going to, let's see if I can add media. I'm trying to add something tonight on this page, on the Facebook page, because I think it's very important based on what it is that I'm talking about tonight. So I'm going to give people a few more minutes to jump on. Let's see if I can do it. How's everybody doing? That's the first thing I want to talk about. You know what? Don't you start in there, sir. Okay. He said, okay. Oh my goodness. I am going to be checking in, something we just did on our call. I want to see how people are doing, how they're feeling. I'm trying to find my Fatherless Generation Foundation page on my iPad. How many of you realize that Facebook has moved some things around? Hey, Flo, how are you? They've moved a few things around, and so it's not as easy as it was before to find everything you need on your page. Let's see. And it's funny because as I'm getting logged into my Facebook page, I really want people to tell me how they're doing tonight. With all of the chaos that's going on, I know that we all have created a bond, especially here on Facebook. We are engaged. We're fully engaged with each other. We know a little bit about each other's lives, enough to care about how we're feeling, how we're getting along. Do we have enough toilet paper? We know each other enough to care about that in this season, I guess, of our relationship being online. But we know so much about each other. I want to know how you guys are doing tonight. That's what I want to know. It's kind of like a check-in. We were just on our marriage coaching call, and there was some checking in going on, and it was like, sorry, I need a little sugar tonight. And there was a little bit of anxiousness, concerns. Some people are settled, some people have what they need, some people are confused. Tell me on 1 to 10 how you guys are feeling tonight. 1 being you're not feeling very good on what's going on in your life, in the world, coronavirus, all of that involved. So 1 being not good at all, 10 being I'm great. Give me 1 to 10 on that, how you guys are doing and how you're feeling. Let me see if I can get this up on my pad so I can see who's on here. And if you jump on, say hey, just so I know that you're here. I know my husband's here because he's already in the background talking crazy to y'all. He's already in full swing, ready to go. And I'm going to talk about fatherlessness and the impact it has on our identity and role confusion tonight. But I really want to spend the first part of this conversation discussing how we're feeling. Are we feeling safe? Are we feeling secure? Are we feeling vulnerable? Are we feeling just not good? Whatever that word is, put it in the comment section for me. This dog, he sees these lights on, y'all, and he wants to come. I'll see Tokyo got a haircut. You can see his eyes now. You see? Say hi to Instagram. Say go to my page. Tokyo, look. Look. You gonna look at the screen? No. He sees Daddy coming out of the kitchen. He's like, there's something he's got. He has nothing for you. So I can't see who's on and no one's saying anything. Or am I having this slow up thing again? My cousin is on. This sucks. I don't know why it's doing this. Okay, Nydia said hey Nydia. She said I'm a 7.5. Let me see. James is on. Okay, so you guys got to tell me, okay, Nydia, why? Nydia, you seem like you're doing pretty good. 7.5 is good. A little disappointed that I didn't get to see Dr. Torri and go to the beach. Charles, hilarious. Yeah, they've closed the beach. I've got to find a new way to find my calm in the midst of storms, because that's where I would go, especially when it got pretty bad. I would find myself on the beach, and that's where I would go every morning, even evening sometimes. And yes, no, Sunday, they decided to close the beaches. We live a block from the beach on purpose. And now you've taken that away from me. So that's what I've got to figure out, how I'm going to find that calm, that balance after that's been taken away. Because how many of you know, sometimes you got to make the adjustment, and I have to make the adjustment, even if it's walking along the wall, the beach, and being able to see it and breathe the air. That may be my adjustment. I'll figure it out along the way. But Charles said he's a little disappointed. Yeah, with those cheap flights you had going on, Charles, I'm sure you were disappointed. Um, but I know I asked earlier, how are you guys feeling? 1 out of 10. We're going to talk a little bit about emotions, feelings, coronavirus, what that looks like really quickly, because I want to. Hey, Merritt Anthony, I want to really kind of, just gauge where you are, because I know some of us growing up fatherless, we've been alienated, right? We don't have our father where we need him to be. We don't have our mother sometimes after we've tried to reunite with our father. Then on top of that, some of us have toxic parents. So our family and our intimate circle is shrunk. It's smaller than some people have. And so in this season, you may be feeling really isolated. You may feel lonely. You may feel confused. You may feel whatever that is. Tell me, put it in the comment box how you're feeling. So I just want to know, and before we get into this conversation, and I said it earlier, we've built a rapport and a relationship over time. So I am invested in how y'all feel, most definitely. Let me tell you how we feel. I feel like I have to use discernment and wisdom. I feel there's some things that we're not being told, and I have to kind of gauge between what's being said and what's not being said. I am not in panic mode. We definitely put ourselves in a position where we have, enough of what we need just in case there is a lockdown. Um, that was stressful. Just going, I don't like shopping like that. Now I like clothes shopping, but I don't like grocery shopping. Like that's not a thing for me. So that was kind of irritating, but it was a necessity, because how many of you know, a lot of us, we shifted to live food. So we eat a lot of food that really can only last a week to a week and a half. And so I go grocery shopping every week, and our refrigerator pretty much empties out. And so we didn't have a lot of stuff in the freezer, or a lot of stuff in the refrigerator, or a lot of stuff in the cabinets. I don't do canned goods. Like it's got a taste. It's got a taste to it. And I don't do that stuff. So I had to go, and we had to go stock up on a few of those things. But I will tell you, I didn't go outside of my fresh food, um, I guess, lifestyle. There are some things that I'm making so that I can freeze them and have it that way. But that's kind of where I am. Nydia said I'm good at social distancing because I never do much or go anywhere. But I'm feeling a bit lonely right now. Yeah, that's a message. Um, and yeah, it's not coming up on here at all. No, it's not. I don't know what's going on with Be Live, but that's real. We were just talking about that too. When you have a personality that is an introvert in many ways, this is going to be a time for you where you're like, I'm good. I am okay. I don't want y'all in my space anyway. And those of us who are social, we're going to have a little bit of issues with that. My husband, we were talking during our marriage coaching call tonight, and he's definitely an introvert. But how many of you know I'm an introvert extrovert? I am always an overachiever. So I have that part of me that's, I need my space, but then I like to be social as well. So I don't know how I'm going to respond, not being able to be so social, but maybe social media will give me that outlet and what I need. Um, Hey, Jonathan. He says, "Good evening, Dr. Torri. I'm feeling like I miss my kids dearly." Yeah, that's the next question I'm going to ask. I feel like my children continue to be weaponized against me for money. Now, this is a message. This is another part of the conversation I want to have. How many dads who are on this live right now are feeling like you're not able to protect. You're feeling weak. You're feeling guilt. You're feeling insecure. You're feeling all these different things because in this season, at this moment, when this is happening, you can't see your children, or you see your children, on a court order rotation, which may be kind of shut down for a moment because you're not going to be able to go back and forth. Some of you travel long distances to see your children. Some of you experience, like, you travel really, really far. And if there's a lockdown, how will you be able to do that? So tell me how you guys are feeling concerning that as well. Nydia said, it's funny because I'm an extrovert, but maybe an undercover introvert um, since I'm always alone and on my own, but I do love being around people. I got you. So you might be the extrovert introvert like myself. I am not as much of an intro or an extrovert as people think. That is just a part of who I've had to become. um, and maybe it's vice versa. No, I was never a big hanging out with people and being around people person. I was not. I can't say that, but I think it's more of who I've had to become throughout the year. I'm sorry, my hair is being weird because I washed it about an hour ago, so it's still drying and it's starting to stick up in places. I'm like, what is that? Um, so yeah, I can get you on that, Nydia, because that extrovert introvert personality, it wants what it wants when it wants it. It's not it's not on a schedule at all. And my husband, telling him, reminding him that I'm an extrovert introvert, he kind of just rolled his eyes. I'm telling you, there's not many people who have that personality trait. I wish I could learn to be as extroverted as you. It is a learning thing. It really is. And it's a necessity thing, Charles. It became a necessity for me to socialize and to be this person that I am, because if I wanted my business to be successful, I had to get out there. And there were times I'd go to networking events and circle through, be seen, maybe drop a card and leave. There are times when I'm scheduled to be at a networking event, I'll get totally dressed and get undressed and don't go. And then there are times when I go to the event and I'm very social, but it takes me a moment. It's not like I just jump right into it. It takes me a moment to get into that moment. So just know that it's a learning curve. Like, you've got to learn it. Sorry, you guys are hearing all the sirens. I will tell you that we do have um, National Guard on the ground here in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale. We have seen them flying through the skies for the last couple of days. That makes me a little nervous. Um, I will say, when they close the beach on Sunday and Monday morning, you wake up and you're getting pictures sent to you where the mounted police officers are at the main entrance, making sure no one gets in. It's like, yeah, this ain't about closing beaches. This is much bigger than that. So that, I will say that I'm at an 8. I'm good. I'm probably better than good. However, there's moments where I'm like, something's up. And so I'm a thinker. And so my brain will start, and I'm an analytical person. My brain will start to churn and begin to think about all the other scenarios. But I just wanted to make sure I check in when it comes to you fathers who are not, able to see your kids, and you're missing your kids. And now this is a time where you, you are not with them, where they seem like they could be totally unprotected and things of that nature. I want you to heavily rely on prayer, as well as technology and things of that nature. I understand that people are dealing with parental alienation and being weaponized and stuff like that. And Jonathan, we've talked. I don't know where you are in your case, but I don't know. I don't know. I think the longer you let it go, the worse it's going to be. It's not going to get better with time. It's just not. They never do. They never get better with time at all. And fatherlessness is a real thing, because some people get upset when we're on here on Tuesday nights. Like last week, one father asked me, so are you saying that fathers are absent on purpose? And I'm like, oh, here we go. Because I'm not saying that fathers are absent on purpose, not on purpose, forced out, or any of that. I am talking to fatherless children who've grown up that way and they don't know the story. And even after you know the story, you've already had the trauma and the experience and the drama and all that goes with it. So now you've still got to heal. you still have to heal. So it's not like knowing the story removes all of that. It doesn't. It actually it can help make it better, but now you've got to go walk backwards through these experiences that you've had that have challenged who you are as a person. And this month we've been talking about, when we started last week, we've been talking about fatherlessness and how it impacts our identity, our gender confusion, our role confusion, and all of these different things. We see a huge group of people rising up. You know, the LGBTQIA community is very strong, and there's a lot of people within the community. Hey, Becca. Um, and even within that, and I've got not one on here on Be Live. Nobody. I don't know what's going on with this. Um, but I think it's kind of crazy that a lot of the conversation that is being had is, you're born this way, it looks like this, it moves like this, it's only this. But when you hear the stories of individuals who were raised in a fatherless home, who were in the lifestyle, or who are in, well, let's say it this way, those who are in the LGBT community, when you begin to hear their stories, a lot of them talk about their fatherlessness, but yet they don't connect the dots back to maybe the pain that they had that then created the fatherless experience, or the gender confusion experience that they've had, um, or the gender identity issues and things of that nature that they had along the way. And so that's what I'm here to do. I am not clumping everyone into a box saying that everyone who's living a homosexual, gay, lesbian, queer, transgender lifestyle of any sort, whatever that is, alternative lifestyle, that they all grew up fatherless and so it's a daddy issue. I'm not clumping everyone into that box. However, I am trying to point you to possibly connect the dots to some internal pain that, and some work that you have not done, so that you can look at how you got there. Because some people don't know. They just simply say, I was born that way, I've always been this way. And I told a very detailed story last week about a young man who was 11 years old, and really how he changed my perspective and my thought process surrounding that. If you want to hear it, please go back and listen to the replay. Joe says, it's been hard being a molecular med tech of COVID-19 and not having access to protect toddler sons. Prayer is essential, and trusting God. Now, this is a message. Like, Joe, like, you know the details. And me being my background being a chemist, my husband and I have had some very interesting conversations around here. And then our last day on the beach, we had a conversation with our neighbor. And this it's hard to reconcile some of the stuff you're hearing when you know certain information from training and background, and even putting yourself as a parent, knowing that your children are walking around. My husband has a 23-year-old daughter. I don't know what conversations they've had about the situation. However, it is clearly something you've got to have with your children. It's very much so the conversation, like, you have to have, he's had to have the conversation with her about sex trafficking and being on alert and being vigilant and being those things, right? But what happens when you don't have access to your children to have the conversation with them, or you don't know what's happening to them? You don't know if they have it or if they don't. You don't know if they've been exposed. And that goes back to, you're going to have to pray, you're going to have to trust God, and you're going to have to use technology in order to be able to check in on your children. Some of you need to file emergency motions in this season. Just be honest with you. You're going to have to file some emergency motions to at least have some level of contact through technology with your children. Because I'm telling you, when this thing goes on lockdown, like San Francisco is right now, 24-hour lockdown, like Italy is, how are you going to be able to see your children? You can't leave the house. You can't leave the house. So what are you going to do? And that's going to make it a little bit more challenging for some of you, not just from not seeing your children and that aspect, but emotionally and mentally. How are they doing and all of those things? So I want you to be wise. I don't want you to panic. I want you to use wisdom in how you're maneuvering in this season, because you've got to recognize that courts are closing. And some of my clients even had court dates this week and next week. And they're like texting like, oh, I got a court case and my attorney. And I'm like, boo, you don't have court this week. Like, you didn't get the memo? There is no court. And so that, I think, for them was challenging because some of them, one family had been waiting almost a year for a court date, right? I can't change a court date. So that's why I'm telling you, you need to do whatever you have to do for your mental health in this season because it's going to be necessary. But back to the topic at hand. We're at 9:25 and I want to make sure I get off of here because I am exhausted from today. And how many of you know you got to take care of yourself? Drink plenty of water, all of these, get plenty of rest. We were talking about our values on our marriage call. And I'm going to tell you right now, time is one of my values, but within time, let me talk to you right now and tell you within time, self time to reflect and all of that, and sleep is in that. I like sleep. What? Go ahead.
Can we ask him a quick question?
If you come put your face on the screen.
I have my hair is disheveled.
Your hair is disheveled, sir?
All right.
Okay. All right. See, they want to see you on the screen. Yeah, I didn't ask you to get on the Instagram screen. Are you serious right now?
I gotta put a hat on. I'm serious. You see my hair. You running around buying meat all day. Leave me alone.
I didn't know I was married to yes, I did.
Yeah, you knew what you meant. What am I doing here?
Come on.
All right, I'm coming.
Come on.
Can you please help solve a debate in my house?
I can't believe you're gonna
catch up on sleep.
Okay, we're gonna go there while we're about to talk about gender identity.
No such thing in my mind.
Gender confusion.
Gender confusion and sleep. You can't catch up on sleep. You either get it or you don't. And
can you catch up on sleep? Hit 1. If you cannot catch up on sleep, put a 2 in the box.
Thanks, Nydia.
Nydia said, "Yay." Got to make sure he represents you right. Right. Nydia said no. Okay, Nydia, you was my girl. You're not my girl anymore. I can't catch up on sleep. Stop being scared. He needs to get on camera at some point.
Yeah.
So let's have this see, Nydia said,
Becca, he does exist.
You've been the voice on what's that show? Back in the day. The man was across the fence.
Home Improvement.
Home Improvement. Lydia said, "I'm still your girl." They said too. You can't catch up on the sleep.
All right, I'm out.
She said, "I'm still your girl, but I can't be with you on this one." I catch up on sleep on Saturday. I'm sorry. I sleep in. However y'all want to look at that. Yeah, we have this issue. Oh, now they're popping up on this side. We have this issue in our house. I don't care if he thinks you can or not. I'm going to go into my sleep mode.
What is Instagram saying over there?
Instagram isn't saying anything. There's no one on. Mm-mm. So everybody's finally popping up. So let's get into this. Charles says you may be able to catch up on a day of sleep if you are behind days. No. Well, no, I'm not typically behind on days. Maybe an hour or 2. You can catch up on sleep. That's what Becca said. Dwayne said no. Tell Wilson to come back. That's you, Wilson. That's the guy's name who was over the fence. Yes. It was like, he does exist. Yes. It's like the M&M, the missing M&M. So let's get into this, you guys. So fatherlessness. I wanted to play a video, but for some reason I can't figure out how to. I'm going to add this media at another time. It was supposed to let me add it. Oh, it's a window block. That's what it's doing. It's like, why is there it is? Hold on. I want to show you guys this video because after we talked last week, I watched one episode. I don't even think I got through the whole episode and clicked it off. It's a show called Blind. Love is Blind on Netflix. And in watching Love is Blind, what happens is you go into these different cubes, right? And in the cubes, you get to meet someone. And in meeting this person, you don't get to see them. You only get to hear their voice and have a talk with them. I don't want to slow my computer down, so I'm just going to let it go. So they were going through these different cubes and people were meeting each other, right? They're meeting each other. And as they're meeting each other, one young lady in the cube is saying, she gets into this conversation of saying, I grew up in an absent father home, fatherless home. And she says, now this is trying to give me, I don't want this anymore. I decided to opt out. She's saying, I grew up in a home without my father. And a lot of times this creates daddy issues within women where they feel like they need a man. And she says, well, I don't need a man. She says, what I did was I became my own masculine influence. How many of you know we just talked about this last week? And it happened like the very next day when we were talking about the identity issue and the confusion that we have where men have become effeminate and women have become masculine. And as we're talking about this, I then turn on the Netflix and for, I mean, maybe all of 30 to 45 minutes. And in the midst of her saying that, she starts saying, I became my own masculine influence. I worked on cars. I became a badass and blah, blah, blah. And she's talking about how I fixed things and she's doing that. And the guy in the cube is doing this. He's like, oh my God. And then she's just talking. And he backs out of the cube and gets out in the hallway. And he's like, he's telling all the other guys, no, do not go in there. And as he's telling them no, she's like, hello, hello, because she realizes he is gone. That's why some folks can't have a relationship. What, Toto? You are trying to be in the lights. This dog belongs on in a movie. He recognizes the lights, you guys. That's why he wants to be in my lap. And then he's making all this noise. He's purring. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Um, but I could not believe that that was just like handed to me last week after we had just had this talk. So when you're growing up in your single parent home, you lack the ability to be yourself, the role, the gender role in many ways that you're called to be. And so you struggle with what that looks like. This young lady said, I didn't have it, so I became my own masculine influence. I believe that a lot of women do that, or their mothers teach them how to be a strong woman. And in being this very strong woman, you carry a lot of masculine energy. And then in carrying a lot of masculine energy, what you then in turn do is you attract either a male with a lot of masculine energy, or you attract a male who is effeminate, who has a lot of feminine energy. And as we talked about last week, this dog, as we talked about last week, that still causes confusion because while he's a male, he doesn't lead, he's not the head of the household. And you, as the woman, you're leading, you're the head of the household. So there's a lot of confusion even happening in your relationships with the opposite sex because you are used to having a dominant female in your life, men. Used to having your mother, your grandmother, your aunt. You're used to having that. And maybe you had uncles, but their way of moving was happy wife, happy life. And so in doing that, you just kind of succumb and you just submit to whatever it is that your wife desires and whatever she wants, or your girlfriend, and let her take the lead. And you become so used to taking the back seat because your mother solved every issue you had. You are now this effeminate male. And that becomes a major issue. One of the things that I want to talk about tonight is what is called the fifth stage of identity and role confusion. We tend to tap into this part of our lives and this developmental aspect of our lives around the ages of 12 and 18. And as we're tapping into identity and we're exploring what that looks like, the studies have shown, and the psychosocial development aspect of this particular stage shares with you how you're exploring. I even wrote this note and it says, this is where the child has to learn the roles he will occupy as an adult between 12 and 18. That's the age of that we, the bar mitzvah and the bar mitzvah take place. It's these different things that are happening that are pushing you and getting you into manhood and into womanhood. And so when you are in that place, it is teaching you the space and the roles that you'll occupy. This is where we do our best to discover who we are sexually and occupationally. It's that time where you try to figure out what do you want to do in life, right? Because now you're about to, at 12, going to 13, you're about to hit high school And those are the ages where you've really got to start focusing on, are you going to college? Is it a college prep? All of those things, right? Because if it's, I'm going to college, then I have to start in the 6th, 7th grade really figuring that out. And then by the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, you've already figured it out and you're on a pathway to actually achieving that, not just discovering it. And this stage, if you lack fundamental things like a father, you are going to miss major steps in helping you understand who you are. Because one of the first things that you do at this age, this stage, I should say, of at this 5th stage of development is exploration. Exploration begins. Oh, come on. I'm about to tell some stories. I didn't play these games, but I know people who did. I was such a snob and I was super judgmental. So there were things that I didn't do. But how many of y'all played hide and go seek and tag and all that other stuff with boys and girls, and that tag got real risque because you was exploring? 12 to 8, especially 12, 13, 14. Husband over here raising his hand. Because it wasn't sex. These kids are having sex now. But it wasn't sex back in my time. It was just flirting,
Mannish.
being mannish, yes,
Yeah,
and being fast. That's what it was. And so when you're looking at that between the age, that's your exploration. You're exploring, what do I want to be? What do I deal with sexually? Like, who do I want to be with sexually? You start looking at alternative lifestyles, especially with them being taught in school and being presented. That's what your children are doing, men who you are not having time with. This is where they are. This is what they're trying to discover. So they're exploring. The other part is, as they're exploring and they start looking through what this exploration looks like, the next phase of this is looking at, am I failing or succeeding? I took this note and wrote this down. It says, failure to establish a sense of identity within society leads to role confusion. So then children, we did it. We became confused about our roles. Even last week, there was some confession, even on my part, between the ages of 12 and 13. Not that I explored it, but there were thoughts that would come into my mind. And I was like, okay, where's that coming from? Plus, I was the most, whew, I was the ugliest child y'all probably ever seen at that age. Like, it just didn't come together. How many of you know that's even the stage where you just, it's like a bad chemistry, biology experiment just gone bad? Because, oh, it was bad. I should show y'all the picture. I would have to go find it right now because I know it's in my pictures, but it just didn't come together right. But all of us have that stage. Some are just not as bad as others. I had a Jerry curl. Come on.
You did have a Jerry.
I had a Jerry curl on top of everything. And then at that season, my mother, we're deciding that we're going to go from Jerry curl. You gonna type it in there? We're gonna go from Jerry curl to perm. How many of you know that don't work? So then all your hair fall out. Like, I'm just going through this thing. Babe, where you going? No!
Okay.
See, look, he gonna get beat down a taste tonight. I don't want the Jerry curl picture. I was gonna look for the 8th grade prom picture. Couldn't believe somebody asked me to go, but he did. Probably because he was the only other black dude, technically, that wasn't hood.
But did your boyfriend go to another school?
That was high school. Give me the phone. I can't see. Okay. You have an iPad over there that you can see. He's going to go find the picture. No, Nydia, I will show it next week, but it was bad. And he didn't even know which one I want. I wanted a particular one. It was bad. How many of you know that's Dwayne's like, go get it. I promise I'll find it and I'll show you next week. It was bad. It's just not good. So how many of us all had that experience? We did. We all looked funny. And so if you're not looking your best, and this is the developmental stage where you're supposed to figure out who you are and what you want to do, but you're feeling super insecure, your father isn't around, so you feel rejected and abandoned. How many of you know you're going to make some decisions that are not lined up with actually who you are? How many of you know that? That's not going to work. Charles said it doesn't matter. He'll find a good one. No, he won't. This is the same dude who went to my 25th class reunion with me. Was it 25? I think it was 25 at this particular school. And my first boyfriend who asked me to the 8th grade dance was there. He told some major story. I learned how we broke up at that reunion. That was tough. Um, he was getting some notes slid to him on what somebody was going to do to him if he was with them and not with me. And so he took the bait. Oh, well. So I learned that, what, 3 years ago? I'm telling my age too on here. I learned that 3 years ago. So and then while we're there, they have um uh what is it? Books. What are the books called? It went out my head.
Yearbooks.
Yearbooks from middle school through high school. And my husband is snapping pictures, right? Then he posts them online. So I promise you, Charles, he is not going to go find the good picture. He definitely was very intrigued by my photos. But let me just tell you this. It clearly got better with time. Okay? Because, you said what?
All right.
All right. He's so silly. But when you're in that moment and in that stage and your father's not present, how many of you know you can be lured and you can be taken on a journey, an exploration that you were never meant to take? Some of us took that and it wasn't even an alternative lifestyle. Some of us took that journey and it had nothing to do with that, but it had to do with um, wanting to be accepted, wanting to be popular, wanted to throw off the abandonment and the rejection that we were feeling, and we wanted everyone in our class to accept us and be popular. So we've done some things that maybe we're not proud of. We explored through drugs, we explored through alcohol, we explored through sexual exploits and different things that we wouldn't have necessarily explored through if our fathers had been present. There's nothing guaranteed. So I know some people want to come on here and say, well, if I had my father or I got a father and it didn't happen, well, there's nothing guaranteed, because just because a father is present doesn't mean that he's engaged, right? So that's a thing. And that's something that I can't take away from the equation, because some fathers who are present just don't know how to be engaged. That's not an excuse. But if you look at and start asking questions, they probably too grew up fatherless and they've got their own set of issues, because we come to this life as children who then have trauma that happens to us, and before we know it, we go from this childhood into adulthood, who then have children, and we never heal those challenges within us. So trust me, it's not an excuse. It's just a true reason and a fact of how we got the parents that we ended up getting. Nydia said, just wanted to belong. Dwayne says, yes. The other Dwayne says, center of attention. Yeah, you wanted to be center of attention because you weren't that at home. And as we're going through this fifth stage, this stage of identity versus role confusion, and this is really just role confusion and intention, and just role confusion, period. But I'm adding the gender confusion part because it goes hand in hand. They go together. So as you are not with your children, Dad, as you are fighting to get custody, they don't know that you're fighting in the background. They don't know that you want to be present. And those who don't know, maybe you've never met them. I hadn't met my father until I was 31 years old. I met him one time when I was 18, but other than that, it was 31. So I had no idea he wanted to be present. I had no idea until having that talk with him that he had already told my bonus mother that I have a daughter. She's eventually going to show up. And so when she shows up, just know I've already told you about her. That brought some reassurance to me and some security to me that I can't even explain to you. Because he was always claiming me. He was always letting people know that I was his, although my mother and him had the talk and she didn't believe I was his. I'm sure there was a point where I started to look like him. And so she knew. However, it's hard for us as people to admit when we've made a mistake and we've done wrong. And I think that becomes a challenge for a lot of mothers, because you don't want your children to see you as anything other than perfect. You don't want them to see you that way. And when we begin to see our parents' flaws, what we should do is we shouldn't pity them. We should see their humanity and have compassion for them. I have compassion for my mother and her journey. That's why I did the interview with her, so I could know. But I can also tell you that who I was and who I am even now, like I've had to go through a journey of understanding my identity, As I was telling a friend yesterday, she asked me a few questions. She said, how you're moving on social media is different. She's known me before I started the fatherless generation. She said, I can see it in your social media. I can hear it even when I'm talking to you on the phone. I can see it in your pictures that I get to see. She said, you have changed. What changed you? And I said, I discovered my sound. Now, take that in. I discovered my sound. Because what happens a lot when it comes to exploring our identity, and we get caught up in looking for our role, we get caught up in issues and confusion in these areas, is we tend to try to mimic people that we admire. We tend to mimic people that we think are successful. We think have it all together, or maybe had some type of input in our lives. And when you're doing that, you're not always getting the good, or you're not always getting the bad. In the midst of that, you don't recognize that there's bad things that come along with that. Growing up without your father and having these issues, it can cause you to go down a journey of exploration where homosexuality is a part of your journey when you didn't want it to be. It's a totally different conversation if that's what you wanted. I'm not having that conversation tonight. But you had that journey, and some of you have had that journey and you feel guilty about it. And you carry so much guilt with you in the midst of it that you can't even focus on current relationships. And you can't be honest with your spouse about that. My husband and I have had that conversation. We've had it. We've had it a few times. Because there's certain things I won't do sexually. Keeping it 1,000 on here. Because I think it opens the door to some things. That's just my take. That's your choice. Marriage bed is they say is holy. That's your choice in your marriage bed. I got my choice. Okay? But I think you have to know yourself enough to know the answer to that. When it comes down to fatherlessness and looking at my identity and my role as a woman and as a person, I have to do some self-reflection. I have to dig deep. And I have to be sure of myself and sure of my place in society. So when I told her that I now know my sound, there is no emulating anyone else. There is no looking at someone else to tell me how I'm supposed to be and do and have an expectation. And no one can place their own expectations upon me, because some of us have gotten stuck in identity and role confusion because our parents had a path for us and they have imposed that on us constantly. And in imposing it upon us, we are somebody we're not supposed to be. How many of you know that you can find yourself rebelling against what was forced upon you and find yourself in an alternative lifestyle? And I know some people want to get on here and say, well, that's not true, and I'm born that way. Once again, go back to the beginning of this video before you chime in on that. Because what I've said to you earlier, I'm not trying to put everybody into a box. I want people to be able to connect the dots to their own pain, their own journey and trauma. And if this is a part of your journey and trauma that has led you to an alternative lifestyle, then you can stay tuned in and you can understand where I'm coming from. If that is not you, then move on, child. This is not the page for you today. But I found my sound. And part of that finding that sound was me stepping out and singing last year. I did a lot of singing here in Fort Lauderdale. And my husband and I, being a musician, and singing is my secret weapon. It is my secret weapon. I know that's my secret weapon. My mother even sent me a text, because my mother and I, since the memorial, we pretty much talk every day or every couple of days. And if you keep it short, you keep pretty short and you get on and get off. Dwayne said, bye, Felicia. Yeah.
Tokyo, sit down. Sit.
He is just trying to be in these cameras. He's okay.
He's not okay.
All right. Well, he's not okay. But I say I found my sound because I would find myself, one of the ways I found my sound was trial and error. I would find myself trying to sing the front, the lead vocal and the background vocal. How many of you know you can't do that? You sound crazy trying to do that. And that's when God showed me, he said, I'm trying to make you a leader and you're still trying to sing in the background. And a leader knows their voice, they know their tone, they know their sound. And so I started listening to other people. And the more people I listen to, I go, that's my sound. And my husband would really say, I like you in the deeper tones, but I like you when you can go up and you can mix it in. But I like you in the deeper tones. And I'm like, oh, okay. So the more I listened, I was like, that's why I like that artist. Oh,
Awesome.
yes.
Anybody?
I don't know. The computer seems to be off. Oh, it's on, but the computer went black. Okay. Okay. Anyway, so that's when I started listening to certain people. And I was like, that's why I like them. And the reason I liked them wasn't that I needed to emulate their sound. I just needed to trust my own. That's an identity thing. That's a role. That's a understanding who I am. That's a role thing, understanding my occupation, how I'm supposed to move, how my voice. Because how many of you know, how many, I want you to chime in on this. I want you to engage on this. How many of you have seen yourself on a video or heard your voice and you can't stand your voice, so you don't watch it? Put a one in the box if you can't listen to yourself. You can't listen, you can't watch, none of that. Put a two in the box if you have no problem watching yourself and it's not a big deal. One in the box if you have no problem listening to yourself on video or hearing yourself on like radio or whatever that is. And then put a two in the box if you have no problem doing that. See, Nydia, yeah, Nydia put a one in there. Charles put a one in there. Becca put a one. See, about 2 years ago, I would have put a one in the box. The worst sound on the planet. It's the worst sound on everybody put a one. So let me ask you this. How many of you want to be a leader in your field? Put a one in the box if that's you. How many of you want to be a leader in your field? And you want to have impact in your field? Because that's what leaders do. Put a one in the box if you want to be a leader and have impact. I'm going to see where you guys are with this. You want to be a leader? Yeah. Dwayne says yes, he wants to be a leader. Jonathan. So let me ask you this. If you can't stand the sound of your voice, what makes you think somebody else would or care? If you can't stand the sound of your voice, what makes you think somebody else can stand the sound of it? You're terrified for a reason. Becca said, leading's not my thing. Okay. I need you to understand that it is important for you to find your sound and you will begin to like your voice better more and more. I will say that. Because I had to listen to my Facebook Lives with you. I had to listen to myself on the radio. And I had to deal with all of those things in order to really cultivate my sound. You can't ignore the sound that you're putting out and then cultivate your sound and cultivate your identity. You can't ignore what you look like and then want to look better, right? You can't ignore that. Dwayne says, Charles says, I don't know. Being a leader has proven to be a lot of work. It is a lot of work. Not everybody is meant to be a leader. That's true. That's why I asked how many of you want to be a leader and have impact, because not everyone wants to lead. However, some of us don't want to lead, but we do. But I'm saying to you tonight, you have to cultivate your sound, no one else's sound, in order to get there. And I've gone through the process of doing that. And it's going to require, the other part of this stage, this fifth stage, is it requires pressure. And pressure doesn't feel good. Pressure feels bad. And sometimes you have peer pressure that will pull you into the wrong direction. I see Dwayne says, some are warriors. That's true. Jonathan says, I'm a leader. However, I'm not making the impact I expect. And is that because you can't stand the sound of your own voice? Is that because you're not taking the time to cultivate and really get into what your voice needs to sound like? Looking at other people who you respect and you want to have a similar sound, but you're not trying to imitate them. You look at what they do and then you perfect what you need to do. Nydia said, being in my line of work, I love being a leader, but sometimes I feel like an imposter. Yes, you feel like you're outside of your own body. That's because you're a leader, but you're not leading with your sound. You're leading with somebody else's. Becca says, I don't mind leading in things I'm educated about. Most leaders are always educated. Most leaders always do their research. They always know what they're supposed to do, especially when they get to the point of leading. Some people know they're supposed to lead, but they don't know what, why, how. That's that identity and role part, the role confusion part that we're talking about. That's why you have to explore. You have to start failing, figuring out what works, what doesn't work. Some of us have gotten ourselves into situations. Those who will listen to this, I want you to listen to some of the videos with Jackie Hill Perry, where she talks about that fatherless aspect. And she breaks down how there are aspects within our lives that kind of look and resemble the tree in the garden, the one that God said, don't eat of it. It was, it looked good for food, but it wasn't, right? And there's some things that we've been doing in our own lives that it looks good. It looks like that's how we should do it, but that's not how we should operate. It's not the fruit that we should be eating. God said no. I always get in trouble because I'm so passionate. I can get passionate. We say that too. We say that in my house. I'd be like, oh, my husband's like, you need to kind of bring that. And I'm like, I'm using my passionate voice. I'm not angry. I'm not yelling. I'm not trying. I'm passionate. So I do understand. She said, that's the word they use for me. She's in my web, Dwayne. Oh, are you guys flirting with each other on here? I like it when that happens. I'm sorry, Instagram. There's no one on here. Like people keep scrolling in and they looking in, but they're not actually on. So I'm not paying too much attention to them. I'll just leave it on record. But when it comes down to our identities and the role confusion, a lot of us are having that issue because we're not taking the time to cultivate who we are and going through the exploration to discovering who we are. We let other people impose theirs upon us. Then we find ourselves in rebellious states. And I'm repeating this again. We find ourselves being rebellious, in a state of rebellion. And in that rebellion, we tend to go the opposite direction. And we're getting ourselves in a position where we're not happy with who we are. We feel guilty about where we are. And then we find ourselves in positions where we can't even understand the roles that we're supposed to play in our lives, in our personal lives, in our romantic lives, and even in our careers. So we find ourselves hating our job, hating what we do because we can't tap into purpose. And then we get so caught up in this confusion, and it all works together. I know some people are like, but how does that have to do with my sexual identity and my if I'm looking at people and how are they confused about their genders and how they play how their gender plays out in their sexual lives. It goes back to the young lady in the video. I'm gonna put the link in here a little later. I'll put the link of the young lady, and I literally recorded it with my phone, where she said daddy issues showed up for her, and because her father was absent. And she said, and it wasn't from the place of me needing a man. She said, I became my own masculine influence. I put money. The longer they go, that young lady she was a tomboy. She's going to tell them that she dated girls and that she's probably fluid on some level. I promise you, she's going to say that. Because that's where we've gotten as a society. Not recognizing that maybe, just maybe, part of her issue was her father wasn't present. And so because she had to become this male, this masculine influence for herself, now she has become that for other people. How many of you have met a girl that seems more masculine and gives off more masculine energy than you do as men? I've seen it. I'm like, is that a boy or a girl? And I've seen the female side, and they're not necessarily transgender. They're just operating from very strong masculine energy. And when she said what she said, I'm telling you, as I'm sitting here with you tonight, she's got confusion in other areas of her life as well. I have friends, Not just friends. I break bread with people because some people be like, I got black friends. And it's like, oh, Jesus. Or I got white friends. Do they come to your house and break bread with you? Because my gay friends come to my house and break bread with me. Dwayne says, I have a gift to put smile on faces and laughs out loud. But this past year, my broken heart has only put out negativity and hurt, brings the entire shop morale down. Okay, even if not vocal or anything. Yeah, because you're exuding, you're putting out all of that energy. You're putting that out because it sounds like you're an exhorter or an encourager. And because right now you need that for yourself and you need to understand where you are. One of the things that I have to recognize, even in finding my sound and really, and I'm saying my sound, but I found my identity, you guys, in a way that I've never found in my life in the last year. And I was able to find that even in the midst of turmoil in my marriage, even in the midst of turmoil in my business. My business don't make a lot of money. That's why I be posting on here like buy a t-shirt, donate. I even have coaching sessions that people who have actually gone through it have told, like, lives have been changed because I help you connect the dots to your father wound. And then I help you explore how that's impacting your day-to-day life now and why you're stuck in places, right? And get you unstuck and move forward. But finding that identity didn't bring more money, but it brought more stability. It brought peace. It brought not only peace from the outside, but I am emanating peace. And so therefore people feel that when they're in my presence. That's why my girlfriend was like, I can see it in your post and your this and your that. And how do you know what I'm saying? And so that's because we even have a rule in my house now. Your method, your madness. Because how many of you know as women, we can get real caught up in what they ain't doing and why they do it that way and they needed to do it this way. I went through that for way too long. It was putting weight on me. I've lost a lot of weight. Because you know what? I lost a lot of weight. Stuff I have no business carrying. And it has to do with some of the stuff we talked about last week. A lot of the women admitted on this Facebook Live that they are tired because we're carrying the weight that's only designed for the shoulders of a man. And here we are carrying. You want to know why your back is so large and wide? Because you're carrying stuff that ain't got nothing to do with you. And I mean that for me. You should see this video my mother sent me. I was like, whose back is that? Just,
and why is she dancing with my husband?
Why is she dancing with my husband? That's a big girl dancing with my husband. And then we were on the beach the other day and I had a t-shirt on and I saw, oh man, I only got one little, little fat back on the back there. That matters because we get so caught up in dieting and losing weight and all this other stuff. How about you dump the weight that you've been carrying and the baggage that has nothing to do with you and it's dealing with your fatherlessness stuff and all of the identity issues that you're dealing with. And some of you are even dealing with gender confusion and role confusion in your relationships right now, in your marriages right now. And the moment you turn those things around and acknowledge the fatherless piece within your home and within yourself, you can then deal with the fatherless issue and how it's impacting your home and your lives and your relationships. But until you recognize that, you can't get past that. My husband is now stepping into a role, some of which he was just like, okay, I'm gonna just let you have that. And others, I took it from him because I was like, he messed up on it the last time. You know how we can be, ladies. Oh, he messed up on that the last time. I'm not gonna let him do that again. So I'm gonna control this. And now you're tired. And now you walk around with a linebacker back and you look crazy.
You know,
because you're a lady.
You know, once you tell me you got it, you got it.
Yeah, and he's the type that if you got it, then you got it. He'll step back. So I'm just here to tell you, there is we can and this happened last week too. We can really get caught up in the homosexual aspect of this, but some of you, ooh, that's ugly. What it's in my spirit to say. Some of you may be in same or not same sex in opposite sex relationships and marriages, but you living like homosexuals all day because you've reversed the roles. And that's your choice. Once again, I'm not on here to bash anybody in the LGBTQIA community. That's a different conversation. But I'm telling you this because this has started with your fatherless issue. Jonathan says, oh no, wait, I got to go back to Dwayne. Nita says, I hate when that happens to me. Hold on. Dwayne says, my work says I make a great manager leader and slash leader, but need to know difference between passion and emotion. Ooh, okay. Well, emotion is just a feeling, right? That's feelings. Passion is something that can drive you, that can lead you to success, or it can cause you to crash and burn if you don't do it right, right? So, yeah, emotion is just a feeling. So that's not the same. Passion, and this is just my take. I'm a girl of words, so I'll look it up while we're on here. I'll get on my, because I think that's important to know. But emotion is just a feeling. Jonathan, as I'm looking this up, kindly praying. Have a nice evening. Thanks, Jonathan, for being on. Becca says, I'm trying. Just when I think I've dumped it all, then I find one more. Absolutely. That's why I told you to practice with one or two. Um, don't get caught up in trying to give it all away, because when you've been leading and taking over the household as a woman, it's going to take you a moment to relinquish those things. Nydia says, I've been doing great with my workouts, but I know I need to put more effort into my journaling and putting in, yep, the work for my spiritual, emotional being. How many of you have ever watched 600 Pound Life? That's our show around here. Like, if we're going to have date night, we typically oh, share the story. We typically watch 600 Pound Life. My Instagram went off. And one of the things you watch on 600 Pound Life, and that's why I even worked with a lady years ago. Her name is Shannon Tanner, and she now does Worthy. But she was doing a lot of different things early on. But she was teaching people maybe 10 years ago that through this thing called body temple wellness, that what you're carrying, um, what you're carrying is what you're carrying. It's the weight you're carrying. And so this was maybe 15 years ago. And it just hadn't caught on to people. But if you watch 600 Pound Life, they will start to lose the weight, but the weight is always a manifestation of trauma. It's a daddy issue, a mother issue, um, a molestation issue. It's some type of trauma. And the moment they go to the therapist, they begin to lose all the weight they're supposed to. But if they refuse to go, they have major struggles with losing the weight, right? That's part of that's why we have to get to the place of getting that out, going to a therapist, getting the journaling and all that. Nydia said, I can't watch that. Dwayne said, I'm passionately emotional. I get it. You passionately in your feelings. I want you to find your passion. What drives you? What would you wake up every morning and want to do with your life? That's where I want to see you go. That's what I want to see you talk about. Hold on, I want to do passion. Did you look it up for me?
Oh no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. What's that?
Nope, I got it.
Passion versus.
I got it. I got it. It's over here opening up. It just took a minute. Passion, a strong and barely controllable emotion. That's interesting. Okay, so there's um, oh, they want to talk about Jesus in that one. An intense desire or enthusiasm for something, right? A thing arousing enthusiasm. So maybe you look at it from the fact that it makes you enthusiastic. You are enthused by this moment, right? Not just not just from a place of emotion. Let me see here. I'm going to put this in here now. Whoops. That's not what I want to do. And I got this thing fixed, but it still be funny acting. It still can be funny acting. Well, I have my phone now since we're done over here. Jesus is my new best friend. I think he's a great best friend to have. I want to look up. I want to look this up. Intense and eager enjoyment interest, or approval. That's enthusiasm. So, Dwayne, maybe you should be enthusiastic, an intense and eager enjoyment, an interest or approval, right? Versus the emotional, the feeling behind it. That's where I'm at with you. So, but I go back to that 600-pound life moment. The reason they have to go through the journey of journaling, going back. One guy yesterday, he had to write a letter to his mother. And he wrote a letter to her, but then when he sat down with her, he totally let her off the hook. He told her, "Oh, I don't resent you." And then during his narration, as he's walking out, he's saying how much he resented her. I was like, okay, if you're going to do it, do it. But we become afraid when we step out to do it. But I hope you guys understand um, what I mean when I said to you tonight, some of you in your actual relationships are still, there's some role reversal, there's some gender confusion, there's some identity confusion because you haven't resolved your fatherless stuff. And so you're living as two leaders. You're living as two effeminate individuals in the house or two masculine energies in the house. That's what I mean when I say you have this homosexual relationship that you ain't even aware of. Don't take that in the negative sense, but find your place, find your identity and what that looks like. Because once again, your role in the house, your gender role per se, doesn't mean as a woman you got to cook, clean, be pregnant, and barefoot, and all of that stuff. That's between the two of you. But I also think there's a place of allowing him to lead. But there's also a place of allowing you to lead where you're good and where you are. Because sometimes, a lot of times when we're leading as women, we're not good at leading in that space. That's just the place we got to be honest. We're not good at leading in all of these places. And he's not good in leading in all the other places either. We have to be honest about what that looks like. And so I want you to understand that the three things you need to do when it comes to getting through this fifth stage, because some of you, I know you're like, but I'm not in the fifth stage because I'm over 12 and 18. Some of you are stuck in arrested development, so you still are between the ages of 12 and 18. Some of you are younger than that because that's when your father walked out, that's when your mother left, that's when the trauma happened, and so you're stuck in a place of arrested development. And so once you get to this fifth stage, I need you to be willing to explore. I need you to be willing to have failures that you learn from, so that you can find your voice and your identity, but also allow the press to happen in your life so that you can get to that place. Because without the press, you can't become all that you're called to be. And the biggest thing that we're afraid of as fatherless individuals is failure, because we want to present this perfection. We want to present this thing that looks perfect, and society accepts us because it looks perfect. And I can tell you that perfection has nothing to do with success. Failure has way more to do with success than perfection. I have failed multiple times. Shoot. I could actually hit the wrong button tomorrow and fail tomorrow. So I want to leave you guys with that tonight. I'm already 8 minutes over. I hope you got some things out of this tonight and understanding how it is important that you discover your identity, you discover your role in society and in life for yourself and no one else, so that you can operate as your best and you can operate in your home and in your relationships the way that you're intended to operate, so that you not only are successful by yourself, but you're successful as a unit. Becca said, and how do you trust enough to let the husband lead in something he crashed and burned on many, many times?
I think Becca mentioned that last week, didn't
she? Mm-hmm. And that's why I said you got to practice. The first step, let me tell you what the first step in these stages are. It's trust versus mistrust. So I'll post that in here before I go to bed tonight. Becca, I'll post that particular section, and I'll just copy and paste some of the stuff that I know from a book that I have been reading concerning this. But trust versus mistrust is the first stage. And how many of you know, if you grew up and you didn't trust, and your father said he was going to be there and he wasn't, or your mother lied to you, you learned that your mother held kept your father from being present. How many of you know trust is a hard thing to come by? And especially if someone breaks that trust, that's not easy to gain back. Yes.
So back up.
Come sit over here.
Oh man, I gotta get on the camera.
Yeah, yeah, you do. We're gonna practice with him, y'all. Okay. Becca, he's got something. Bart's got something he's gonna tell you.
Becca, the worst thing a husband wants to do is disappoint his wife.
That's true.
Maybe if you convey to him that I need you to take on these responsibilities and please don't disappoint me. And I don't know, in the Becca tone or the Becca way. I don't know, but when she tells me she's disappointed in me, that just breaks me up, and I have to do better. So maybe you can use it to that approach, or I don't know.
And that's made the adjustment when I learned that that's why he was failing so much, because he was struggling with the disappointment. That was huge. And so I then had to pull back some of that strong woman that I was putting forth. Like, you know what you're supposed to be doing. And this is the other part. My husband also came to me and said to me, I need you to know that I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe Dwayne needs to admit he doesn't know what he's doing or what needs to be done so that you can give him some more grace. Because Becca, he's not failing on purpose, because he doesn't want to crash and burn, because he doesn't want to disappoint you. He doesn't. But there's something that's causing him to crash and burn, and it very well could be, my love, that he doesn't know what to do. Jamal came on at the end. He said, me too. Okay, so my husband is saying maybe even talk, because Dwayne's on here. I don't know if he got off, but talk to him and say how much you need his help. And then Dwayne, you trusting her when she wants to help, not lead, help. And understanding the difference, Becca. Because this is not easy. When we didn't grow up with the right boundaries and parents, and no one's perfect. Our parents are never going to be perfect. Our parents are human. Our parents, as I said earlier, they came to the table with their own set of issues that they did not get healed from, that started in their childhood. And so then they became parents without, like one of my favorite songs, John Mayer, daughters. He was like, fathers, be good to your daughters, because daughters learn like you do. Like, they learn the way that you teach them. Girls become lovers who turn into mothers. So mothers, be good to your daughters too. Oh, Dwayne, no. We're talking about Becca's husband, Dwayne, who was on here. He's like, here. No, the other Dwayne, the DWA, what is it? YNE Dwayne. But yeah, we get our roles flipped. And I hope you guys see, I hope I conveyed it correctly, where you can really see how the roles are even flipped, even though you're in a relationship with the opposite sex. I need you to be able to see that. Nydia said it takes work, and the most difficult is when you want to be together. You're learning yourself. He's learning himself. Hold on. And you're both learning each other. Yeah, that's a lot. The goal, hopefully, is to come to the table with some sense of self. It doesn't always work that way. It doesn't always work that way. I was very knowledgeable of myself before getting married. Now, of course, I learned some things along the way, right? However, I knew myself. I'd spent a lot of time with myself. And that's just who I am as a person. But not everybody does that. There's always one who's not doing that. And guys don't typically do that. Guys aren't going to the store getting self-help books. Like, that's not, I've had a lot of male friends in my life. That is not typical. Becca said, thanks, guys. This is so hard for me. We will be praying with you through this, but I hope we gave you some strategy that you can incorporate at least one of them over the next month to get you past this place of leading and taking control. And Becca, it goes back to your household. You had no control. And so how you lead is by controlling everything so that you can feel safe and secure. But I want you to allow your husband to be vulnerable. One of the things I always said to my husband, even when he was my boyfriend and my fiance, is I want to be the safe place for him to land. Because outside, it's rough. It's harsh. I don't want to be harsh towards him. Sometimes you got to tell him like it is and get to it. But I want to be the safe and the soft place for him to land when it comes to anything he's feeling. That doesn't mean that he's going to access that part of me, because he may have issues with vulnerability, intimacy. He does. So that doesn't mean that it's always I'm going to be that place. Sometimes they just hold it in. So you have to be that safe and soft place for him. Nydia says, sometimes you want to give up, but you have to have compassion, patience, and love for yourself and each other. Let me tell you something. That's a mouthful right there. You want to give up all the time because people gave up on you. Your father abandoned you. You were rejected. And so that's why some people succumb to alternative relationships. They're easier. They're this, they're that. It's what they know without them even knowing that that's what they know, right? Your mother's being really strong. Even when you come from two-parent households, your mother's strong, your father's, he goes with whatever she wants because he believes happy wife, happy life. And you watched your father just do what you as individuals watching him, you're like, dad was not leading. Dad was not leading. And so in him not leading, you get to the place where you're like, okay, that's what I expect when I grow up, I got to do whatever my wife wants to do in order to stay married, because when you don't do that, you get a divorce. Happy wife does not mean happy life. You don't have to bend over backwards to please your wife. And that's a rule in our house. I've never liked that saying, and now we have a marriage coach who says it all the time. He's like, that is not right. But we used to say it before he became our marriage coach. So I'm just telling you, we have to understand what Nydia is saying here. You can't give up, because giving up is what you know. Abandonment, rejection, it's what you know. And that's why you do it. That's why it's easy to hit that button and say, oh, it was them. You grow together. And sometimes that growing together is painful. A lot of times it's painful. We ain't always laughing and copacetic. Now, that's my favorite part of my marriage. We laugh a lot together. But there are times when we don't. And we've tried to hit the eject button on this quite a few times, especially in 2019. Jamal says, I often mess up, often praying to God for help, wanting to get it right. Nevertheless, I keep trying. Jamal, that goes back to being able to admit that not only to us and to yourself, but to your wife, and saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. But then finding a mentor and finding a group of men. Talk to my husband, Jamal. He has a group now that we're a part of, and the men have their own time where they are learning and getting things that they need to get. And a lot of them grew up in fatherless homes. Yeah, that's your homie. One of the horsemen.
I missed that group too.
Yeah, because y'all used to have the four horsemen, and y'all would do that for each other. So maybe that's something you guys need to put back together, so that you guys, as a foursome, can be that, that I don't know, that support that you guys need, because it's not easy when you didn't see it. Becca said, preach. I needed to hear that. You just spoke straight to my heart. Oh, and then Nydia said, Dr. Torri, you better stop. You got me crying over here. Yeah. She said, you want to give up because they gave up on you. Yeah, that's where we are. I can't lie to you guys. The stuff I'm teaching you and talking to you about, I've walked through it, or sometimes I'm in the midst of walking through it. And sometimes it circles back around multiple times. I grew up without my father, and although I reunited with him, he passed before there were certain things he could give me. That's why I said to you earlier, although your father is back, or he's told you whatever, and dads, I need you to hear this, you told them whatever you need to tell them, and they're good in that respect, but the trauma has still taken place, so you've got to heal. And there's some stuff you don't know you need to be healed from until you marry somebody else, because you suppressed it and buried it. And you've buried it. And now when you marry someone, guess what happens? It bubbles to the surface and it comes to the top, and it's the first thing they get to see. And you're like trying to hide it and tuck it under. And you're like, oh my God, I don't want them to see this, right? But they're anointed to deal with it. And that's why they're here to see it. That's why. Becca said, Dwayne's my soft place to land. He's my safety. I'm the opposite for him. I don't mean to be like that. I'm unbearing the pain that causes me to be so critical and mean. Keep doing the work, Becca. But I think he would really appreciate it if you came to him from in a vulnerable place, that you were vulnerable. allowing him to be vulnerable, that he can then open up to you and then go from, oh, I got one right here. I got one right here. Because our coaches make us read a lot of books. This is book, Becca, this is your book. Go grab this book. Okay? Hold on. I go this way. This is your book. Love and Respect. My husband grabbed his over there. This is your book. This book talks about the crazy cycle, and I've been on the crazy cycle, where it talks about the love she desires most and the respect he desperately needs. How many of you know you ain't giving respect if you don't feel loved? And he's not going to show you love if he ain't being respected. And so you find yourself on a crazy cycle until you figure out how to get off of it. And that's what you're talking about. You're on a crazy cycle. So Love and Respect is an amazing book. It's helped both of us understand how to just hit a board. How to suck up your pride and keep it, like, let it go. Is this really worth the argument? Is this really worth the fight? Because this is going to turn some places. The other night we had a moment. We had a major moment. It didn't need to be a moment, but it was a moment. And I had to call it a night. Because let me tell you how we do this. I'll be candid about what it was. So we're driving, someone cuts me off, and I got scared, but my fear doesn't look like fear. My being scared, it looks like arrogance or pride, right? So I get tougher. That's, some of us do that. I get stronger because I watched my mother be in an abusive relationship at one point in our household. And I was like, I'll never back down to a man. Like, I never. Like, you come for me, you better be ready to be swung on, right? That's that masculine energy. So we're driving, the guy cuts me off. I was like, oh my God, and I'm shaking, and I'm thinking nothing of it. And I'm like, I'm just shaking at this point. And I'm not thinking of being upset with him. I'm just like, oh my God. And he then opens his door and he yells at me. And he was like, turn your lights on, blah, blah, blah. My lights were on. So I was like, my lights are on, and I called him a name. Mark didn't like that because he was like, you could have got a shot. Number one, the guy had already opened his car door. So it became a thing. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I was scared. And he didn't even see that I was scared. And earlier that day, see, now he's about to learn something. Earlier that day, he thought I was scared about the coronavirus. And I was like, I'm not scared about that. So what I had to do so that I didn't go down this trail, because I was thinking in my head, oh, he don't even know who I am. See, he ain't even figure out who I am right now. I can't believe he did. And I could have gone there. That's when you start getting on the crazy cycle. I didn't even eat dinner. I went to bed at 8:30. We came in the house. I texted him to help bring clarity so that he could understand what was actually happening in that moment, so that then he could start to understand more of who I am in that regard. And I went to bed. And I didn't go to bed mad. I just went to bed because I didn't want to be on the crazy cycle.
What did you do when you texted me that you was going to bed? I came in the bedroom and I gave you what?
He gave me a kiss. And we went to bed like that.
Now, tell them the normal cycle.
Oh, yeah.
The cycle before. Like, oh, man.
Don't touch me. Get in this bed. He ain't going to touch me, and I don't want him to touch me. He ain't going to touch me. Don't cuddle with me. None of that. Like, that's the crazy cycle we would be on. This book covers a lot of that. I remember when I first opened it, I was like, we've done all of this. We've done all of this. Crazy stuff. All of it. So, Becca, that's your book. You trail mix. See, so y'all got me on here another 20 minutes. See, it's cool to have you on here. It's good to see you. And you guys got to see Varg tonight. He does exist. Wilson is no longer behind the fence. You saw his face. He even wore his FIA hat. Becca said, I need that book. So that's a great suggestion, Beck. Thank you for your contribution tonight. It was very good. I hope that I know it did. I know it blessed Becca, and I believe that it will bless their marriage from being able to hear that. Nydia said, I saw that hat too. Yeah. My husband is an alpha man. He's an alpha man in multiple ways. So yes. But once again, I want you guys to understand, and I'm going to leave with this: explore, embrace failure, and trust that pressure It's not there to destroy you, but it's simply there to help you shine. It's there to help you become better. That's what it's there for. So I will see you guys next week. I look forward to Healing Tuesday. You guys stay strong. We got the internet. They said they ain't gonna cut the internet off, right? So I will be here on Tuesdays, and if stuff gets bad, I'll just pop on here just to help be, just to be a beacon of light. If any of you want coaching, I'll put the link in there. Let me know. We can do an assessment and at least talk about it. There are payment plans. We can have that conversation because beyond Healing Tuesday, there's much deeper things, and I can be very specific and strategic for you to get you out of these things. So think about those things. Anita said, thank you so much for tonight, Dr. Torri and Varek. Have a great night. All right, I will talk to you guys next week, and be prepared, be wise, and stay strong. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.